let's go to the Saints backfield where Alvin Kamara, if all things were equal, might dominate the work. But the biggest question facing him and thus the entire backfield is, will Kamara be suspended? There's been no action by the NFL so far, no even hint of action, no whisper like this is what needs to happen before we decide on this. That video of his incident came out in November. There's been nothing since then. The trial is set to begin on July 31st. I have no idea exactly how long a trial like that is going to last. I don't think any of us do. He and the other co-defendants pleaded not guilty, so it certainly doesn't sound like they're ready to make it happen as quickly as possible. There's a chance, at least, that this legal case does not affect Kamara at all for 2023. So with that being the overhanging problem here, what did you do with Kamara and the rest of the New Orleans backfield?
Yeah, and we currently haven't projected for, I think it's only like 11 games. So we are, obviously projecting suspension. We'll keep an eye on that and adjust if we need to. To me, this is probably the hardest backfield for me to project right now. Starting with a Kamara suspension, obviously, even beyond that, Kamara had some funky usage over the second half of last season. He had 3 games with just single-digit carries, and then he had just 12 total targets over the final 5 games. And you look at the offseason, the Saints add Jamaal Williams, they add Kendre Miller. It definitely feels like they're getting ready for life without Alvin Kamara, whether it's suspension this season or 2024 and beyond. I think this is his final year in New Orleans, unless he takes a major pay cut and restructures his contract. Kamara is going to have a $19 million cap hit next season, so it's always scary to like invest in a guy where the team kind of is ready to move on from. Now that said, Jamaal Williams doesn't scare me a ton. He got one of the better contracts in free agency. I will say, 3 years, 12 mil. That's a pretty nice deal for a running back this day and age. 8.2 million guaranteed. He's kind of just a guy to me. I know coaches tend to like him because he's reliable and he's good in pass protection. He doesn't fumble, all that stuff. But you look at the advanced match. Yeah, obviously coming off the huge season in Detroit with the 17 touchdowns, but the advanced metrics: 44th among 48 running backs in elusive rating, 33rd among those 48 in rush yards over expected per attempt. So he's there as like a Kamara insurance policy to me. And then Kendre Miller makes this even tougher, right? Because after adding Jamaal Williams, they spend a 3rd round pick, which again is nice draft capital on this rookie running back who they obviously like quite a bit.
Jamaal Williams is a compliment. That's just what he is as an NFL running back. And they needed a compliment. I mean, if you look at the last 2 years for Alvin Kamara, they needed somebody else in the backfield, not the ghost of Mark Ingram or anything else that they like half-assed into, backfield, backups or sharing the workload. They needed something better. So that's what they got in Jamaal Williams. So I don't think he comes in to challenge the workload. He comes in to take needed workload away from Alvin Kamara, whose efficiency stunk the past 2 years versus the previous few. Question on the Kamara efficiency is he just like so far down the hill at this point that the efficiency isn't coming back even on less work, or does he rebound some on efficiency by getting fewer touches? We'll deal with the suspension if it comes, when it comes. For now, it's clearly baked into his ADP. He's been in the 30s among running backs all along. And Jamaal Williams is at RB 40. So that's going by underdog ADP. People clearly are just apprehensive with the backfield as a whole. To me, if you're drafting enough volume, you should be targeting at least one of those guys. And they're in a range where they're pretty easy to target together. You can put Alvin Kamara on your team in round 9, Jamaal Williams on your team in round 10 or 11. And then you've got the entire season of Saints backfield. Now, that's not a backfield that I think is going to have a monster year. So I'm not saying you have to have it, but in terms of where you're taking them and the upside, especially on a week-to-week basis, I think both of those guys stand out as values. Kendre Miller is going a little bit close to them, I think, RB 44. Now, you mentioned the draft capital, and it's significant. Early round 3, he was the 4th running back off the board. Dennis Allen talked up his downhill running, his contact balance, his breakaway speed, and he indicated that he doesn't think TCU used Kendre Miller's receiving skills enough. So they clearly think that they have a 3-down back. Now, the question for us to answer, and we're never going to get the full answer until the season begins at least, why did the Saints take him where they did? Is it because they're scared of losing Kamara for some games? They want to make sure that they have plenty in that backfield this year? Or do they just think that Kendre Miller is so good that they're like, we're going to take him here. If he helps us with the Kamara situation this year, great. But beyond that, we've got a really good running back for next year when Kamara is probably not in our plans anymore. I think when you combine the Kamara uncertainty with Kendre Miller also coming off a knee injury that required surgery in January, I'm not betting on Miller right now for real 2023 value. I'm more interested in him longer term.
That's my read right now, that Miller was more of a 2024 and beyond pick after Kamara is gone. You mentioned the knee injury. He's also super young. Miller, I think he's still not even 21 years old. So I think he's definitely more of a long-term play. Now, if Kamara does get that suspension, I think, Miller will probably get on the field behind Jamaal Williams. So he's overpriced to me. I'm not taking him at RB44 or whatever you said it was. Kamara and Williams, I think they're fine. Like, I can't argue against the ADPs. They're still not guys I'm aggressively targeting. There's still a Taysom Hill problem for these running backs. Taysom Hill handled 48% of the Saints carries inside the 10-yard line last season. This offensive line too, for a while, it was like a top 5 unit. The Saints finished 26th last year in PFF run blocking grade. So you talk about Kamara's efficiency. I think part of it is he is on the decline. The other part of it is the blocking in front of him has not been as good. So I think I finally took my first Kamara share in the 9th round earlier this week on underdog. I guess that's kind of the point where I'm comfortable taking a shot on him.
I've been taking Kamara shares all off season. And just to give a little bit more context, the ADP, James Cook is right ahead of Alvin Kamara in ADP. I mean, that's a no-brainer for me. James Cook is almost a 0 share player for me. Javonte Williams is a little bit ahead of Kamara, and I think they're in the same boat for different reasons. You're dealing with some uncertainty. They could blow up in your face, or things could go well and they could be huge values from where they are. Zach Charbonnet is right behind Alvin Kamara. So, that kind of range of players.
Yeah, Kamara over Cook and Charbonnet is easy for me.